Let some people trickle in. Sweet. Okay, hey everyone. Welcome to Building on Gearbox, our workshop with Mikael here from Gearbox. We will let him do his thing for a while, but feel free as he is going through his workshop to put some questions in the Zoom chat, and then he'll do a little bit of a Q&A session at the end. So yeah, feel free to take it away now.
Okay, thanks so much. So good to participate in as global as sponsors. As you know, Gearbox was born in as global around 1 year ago, so it became a finalist. You can see in presentation of Market Make in January of 2021. And since this day, me and my team work closely to make really leverage composable. So hello to everyone. Thanks for joining. And before we will make our hands dirty, just a short recap what is Gearbox and what we are working on. So can you see my screen? Just a short question, guys, who is already connected. Just ping in the chat that everything is okay. Yeah, cool. Thanks so much. So here you can see that Gearbox is generalized composable leverage protocol, and Gearbox itself based on NuDeFi primitive, which is called credit account. Technically speaking, Gearbox credit account is an isolated smart contract and could be represented like smart contract wallet, which could manage your own funds and some margin loan funds. However, you can't get directly access to these funds, but you can use it on different external protocol. So Gearbox itself does not provide end service. Instead of that, we can talk more about empowering other protocols. So, for example, when you combine Gearbox with Uniswap, you can get margin trading. When you combine Gearbox with Convex or Earn, you can get leverage farming with Lido, leverage staking, and so on and so on. Now we are working with for V2, and today's presentation would be about it. And V2 has already 7 major connections with 7 major DeFi protocol, such as Uniswap, V2, V3, SushiSwap, Earn, Lida, Curve, and Convex. And it's pretty simple to build it because in Amsterdam, when we also participated as sponsors, it was a few teams who were able to make such an integration in less than 30 hours, and they also were able to build some interfaces and so on and so on. So Gearbox itself could create a really interesting way to build composable strategy in the most native way. So you can consider credit account as your MetaMask wallet, but with X10 or X20 more money. And to talk a little bit how it works, let's go and talk about architecture. So as you can see on this picture, Gearbox is two-side protocol. And on the left side, you can see liquidity providers. These people or customer segment provides capital to the pool to gain APY, and they prefer passive investment strategy. And basically this left part is similar like it works in major lending protocol like Compound or Aave. But what really makes Gearbox unique is the right part. And here you can see a borrower or strategist or trader, a person who wants to get leverage. To do so, this person could open a credit account. And as I also mentioned, credit account itself is an isolated smart contract. Then borrower could send initial funds on it, and this credit account has an ability to take margin loan from the pool. So after opening credit account, it has two sources of funds. The first part is initial funds, which were taken from borrower, and another part is margin loan or leverage, which were taken from the pool. Then you as a borrower can send different transactions to a special smart contract, which is called credit manager. It checks them not to be malicious, and if everything is okay, they would be executed on behalf of credit account on third-party protocols. So let's go through example to show how it works. Here you can see how to open credit account, and today we will check how to do this programmatically, of course. So here you can see borrower provide 10 Ethereum to credit account, and credit account itself takes 90 S from the pool. So after opening credit account, you have 100 S on it. You can use these funds and manage them across listed protocols, and it depends on credit manager. In other words, you can simply consider credit manager like as policy keeper who knows which contracts are allowed and what you can do. Another part which is pretty significant that this smart contract is nominated in S. This property is called underlying asset or underlying, and you can't change it. So your debt, interest rate, and fees are always in S. And the last part, of course, is interest rate, because there are no free money anywhere. So when you take this margin loan, you should pay some interest. And this interest rate is calculated similar like it AVE or compound do, and it depends on pool utilization. So after opening credit account, what we can see on this picture, you as a trader could, of course, use these funds to build other strategies. So here you can see how it works. You as borrower send transaction, and before it would be executed, we make a few checks. The first one, we want to check that the target contract is whitelisted. It means that we really allows you to interact with it. And it's done, of course, to eliminate some malicious smart contract. The next point is also crucial, that the token is in allowed list. It means that token which you will get as a result could be used as collateral. And just to simplify the rule, Gearbox supports only token which has chainlink price feeds. So basically, if this token have chainlink price feed is in this allowed list, this transaction would be executed on behalf of credit account. And then after it, the system will check that health factor is more than 1. And it's a very, very significant term, because health factor more than 1 means that credit account itself could pay the debt and interest rate back. If health factor is less than 1, this transaction would be reverted. So basically, there is only one case when we can get this health factor less than 1. If some rates would be changed during some price fluctuations, and at this point, such account could be liquidated with a similar flow how it happened in AVE or compound. And to talk a little bit more about liquidation and risk model, let's go to basic things in credit account. So on the right part, you can see a graphical representation of credit account. You can see that this credit account is also nominated in S, what means that the debt is always in S, interest rate, as we discussed before. And here you can see the list of allowed token list of allowed tokens. So you can use it for keeping AVE, DAI, USDC link, RAPTES, and so on and so on. Then you can see balances of this credit account and prices. What I really mentioned were taken from Chainlink price feed. So to compute portfolio value, it's a pretty simple. You can just multiply balance to price and then summarize the result. So basically the first significant, I will provide maybe in the chat, parameter is called total value, and you can find it in our smart contract. And total value represent how much money you can get if you swap all assets on credit account to underlying one using some prices. Prices taken from Chainlink Price Oracle. The second parameter, I will also provide it in the chat. It's called total weighted value, or TVV, for to make a short name. Yeah, so it looks like similar like portfolio value, but as you can see, there is one more multiplier, which is called LT, or liquidation threshold. And liquidation threshold, it's a really key parameter for each asset. It represents the over collateralization. So in Gearbox, to have a time to liquidate some credit account and have enough money to pay back margin loan to the pool, we need to underestimate portfolio value. So liquidation threshold is always less than 1. And basically, you can simply consider it as a maximum expected price drop during liquidation. So it's pretty clear, for example, that for 2 stable coins, it could be around 1, and for 2 high volatile assets like RAPTS and DAI, it would be like 0.7. To set up these parameters precisely, we have a special risk committee and DAO who decides which parameters and which tokens should be added. So when we construct this parameter, which is called, just to recap, threshold weighted value, it's pretty clear to create another very significant parameter, which is called health factor. So health factor itself is a ratio between threshold weighted value and borrow amount plus interest rate at moment t. So, as I mentioned before, if health factor becomes less than 1, such credit account could be liquidated. And in this case, liquidator pays at current setup 95% of total value and get all assets from credit account. It would be always profitable to be liquidator, because you get a 5% discount of real market price. And probably the main question here to liquidator, is it enough such amount of money to cover gas cost? So basically, if you go back to our architecture slide, just to recap, you as borrower open credit account and provide your own part of a funds. So to get X10, for example, credit account could take margin loan 9 times more from the pool. Then you send transactions to credit manager, and we will discuss a little bit more how to make technically. and then they would be executed if they are pretty safe on behalf of credit account on third-party protocols. And here you can see how flexibility and composability comes to end user. So basically, we can really connect a lot of different protocols, and you can create really different and amazing strategies. For example, you can open credit account, then use Uniswap to swap S to DAI, which would mean that you short position because you have debt in S, then you swap it into DAI, and then you can put this DAI into earn vault to get additional yield. So it's a really interesting feature. And to talk a little bit more why Gearbox has unique market offer, just a few things which is really could be done only using Gearbox. The first part that we can provide like X20 capital, and it's a really huge leverage comparing with other lending protocols. Majority of them just allow you to up like X3 leverage maximum. Another great part, which is really inspiring, that you can leverage your LP tokens, which is pretty cool. For example, on Convex, now you have on average 6 or 7% APY. Just keep in mind with X10, it could be 60% at the lowest estimation. And then you can pay, for example, 4% to the liquidity providers. So we should subtract 60 minus 9 times because we get X10 to 4%. So this strategy could generate you at least 24%. And of course, you can combine different things and make a really cool strategy. And what I also talked about, that you can combine different DeFi strategy to generate more yield, make more money, and so on and so on. So just a question, please write me in the chat. Have you any question at this field, or we can move forward to talk a little bit more how to be integrated and how to build upon Gearbox? Questions 1, questions 2. Okay, got it. Thank you. So let's move forward and check a little bit how to work on Gearbox. I will share. I will share my VS Code. Just one more question. Can you see my screen, sirs? Yeah, cool. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. So at this place, it would be just a short things how to build upon Gearbox. And what we are going to create at the moment using Gearbox v2 is some, I don't know, earn vault or something like that, where could be tokenized vault, which follow ERC 4626 standard. So as after this workshop, you will be able to really implement the pretty complex things like earn smart contract, but a lot of complex logic could be encapsulated in Gearbox. And another part, you can see how to build and how really use Gearbox. So I have a small boilerplate, which I've done before workshop. What is crucial here? So if you go to package.json, you can find a really useful NPM package, which is called Gearbox protocol / contracts. It really have some interfaces from our smart contracts and integrations. So it's strongly recommended to use it when you want to build something on Gearbox, or if you want to use Gearbox via TypeScript. Of course, it's better to use another very commonly used package, which is called Gearbox protocol / SDK. So basically, these two packages I strongly recommend to use, and I make a hard hat initialization. Nothing more here, just import all other significant things for development, and of course Open Zeppelin contracts and some hard hat and other libraries, which is always used here. And then I make one smart contract which is called constants. It doesn't matter, it just have some dump constants which is connected to such a thing. So basically our goal, as I said, to create some vault, and of course vault itself would be tokenized, so it's why I called my smart contract Gearbox Vault, and it follows ERC20. So it itself inherits ERC20, and let's call this token also Gearbox Vault or GVT. So you can see it here. And there are some very significant part, just I want to tell you a little bit more until we will go and implement something. So here, as you can see, to work with Gearbox, as I show you in presentation, we have a special smart contract which is called iCredit Manager. So in some terms, you can consider the logic is here. Each pool could be connected with a few credit managers, and only credit manager could take funds or manage funds from the pool. Then each credit manager has connection with credit accounts. Yeah, it's a mapping, and if we go and check a little bit, let me check what's going on. Yep. So here you can find a special function, getter, which could return you the address of each borrower. So credit manager itself, it keeps all addresses of credit accounts connected and open on it at the moment. As I already mentioned, when we talk a little bit about credit accounts, I said that credit account itself has an underlying token. However, to be more precise, underlying token is also property of credit manager. So basically all things you are going to work with is connected with credit manager. And here you can see some functions, exceptions, and getters which could be used on credit managers. However, in the second version, we use facade development pattern. So all function which you need is located in smart contract, which is called credit facade. In other words, credit manager itself behaves like a backend, and credit facade provide all functions you need to interact. So each time, if you want to figure out how it works and so on, please go to our website, which has some explanation how it works. I provided in the chat. It's called https://dev.gearbox.fi. So you can open and follow it in documentation. You can find some slides and explanation how it works. You can see pools, credit accounts, and definitely all information concerning different methods and getters here. So in our world, what you can see, we just keep credit facade because credit facade itself is enough to manage our credit account. And as you can see here, the logic is following. So what we are going to do, we will deploy this Gearbox Vault. Yep. Then Gearbox Vault should open credit account. And then people would be able to deposit DAI into this Gearbox Vault and get GVT, as you can see, or they could withdraw GVT to get DAI back. So it's a simple tokenized vault as usual. And another part, what we are going to do, we will build just not to be out of time, that you as a vault manager, so for simplicity, we call this role manager, and it's also just an address of MSG sender for simplicity here, which would really be responsible for changing strategy. So here we are going to implement two strategy. One strategy is provide DAI into Yearn DAI, and another part is provide DAI into convex 3 CRV pool. So basically, it's a pretty interesting option. For example, you can create a special role which would really check different API and compare them. If Yearn DAI pool will provide higher API, the system could switch everything to Yearn DAI and generate more yield for token vault holders. If Convex would provide higher API, you can switch. And of course, all concepts which we discussed today would also work for everything. So basically, you can definitely not only focus on DAI and Convex 3 pool, you can create a few different strategies, make different switches, and so on and so on. And just keep in mind, because Gearbox could be considered a credit account itself as a smart contract wallet. So switching cost between different strategies would be without big overhead when you compare them with your native actions using MetaMask. So it would roughly cost how much gas you need to pay when you close earn position and you will die as a result, and then when you construct your convex stake position. So pretty cool. No predefined strategy, you can do everything. Is it clear at this point what I'm talking, guys? Press yes, or let's make a short Q&A session to move forward. Here, developers who are on a call, I can find. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Cool. Thanks so much. So basically, let's make hands dirty. And the first point, what we should really do to be able to work with credit account and our idea, and what I also told you that with this credit account and smart contract wallet, we can get leverage, and for end users who provide money for this tokenized vault, it could be very profitable to buy your tokens. So to do so, the first function which we are going to really make here would be called OpenCA. And of course, it should be external and manager only, because opening credit account, as I also mentioned, is allowed only for credit manager. So to open credit account, it's a pretty simple. We should go and check our credit facade interface. It's here. And here you can find a function which is called open credit account. So for our purposes, it's much easier to use it. So for some advanced usage, there is some multi-call options, and multi-call could help you to execute different transactions during opening credit account. For our purposes, what we are going to do is to open credit account. So here, as you can see, amount, it's how much money you're going to provide here on behalf of it's the address which would have such an account. Leverage factor is leverage we are going to take, and referral code does not matter. It's designed for referral programs, so we can simply skip it as 0. So I just copy this function, go back to my vault, and here and another part which is also very significant at this point, that credit account itself, when you open it, will withdraw this amount of money from your account. So from account which try to open it, in our case, this amount would be withdrawn from our smart contract. Probably it's better to add something like ERC20 at asset dot transfer from MG sender. So at this line, I transfer funds from manager, because manager executes this function, to this smart contract. And the last point that we should definitely talk about, that credit account itself and credit manager has a policy like a minimum borrowed amount. In other cases, this is minimum borrowed amount means that how much money as minimum you can borrow from the pool. It's done to make liquidation profitable. So to get it, we can simply get the instance of credit manager and ask like borrowed, and let's divide them for 4. So on behalf of course, I'm going to that this smart contract would have this account. Leverage factor is how much money we want to take from the pool. It's like multiplier. In our case, let's talk about X5. It doesn't matter, but it's okay to get these things. And here you can see why I put 4 here and 400 here. And referral code, you can skip it as 0. Let's check. Yeah. Now it's okay. So basically what we have done here, we provide an amount. We really transfer DAI tokens from MSG sender to this smart contract in amount whatever we need to open X5 credit account. So we will provide some part from us, and then of course we will get them from the pool. So now it seems that we have investment in size of amount. Maybe the latest things we want to do is to mint MSG sender. this amount, because when you open credit account, you provide your funds. So we need to mint our vault tokens, GVT tokens, to MSG sender, a person, a manager who established this vault. So basically, of course, we can make this function much better. For example, we can check and add some requirements here, not to be executed if smart contract has already opened account. To do so, you can just check that this property, which is called credit accounts, when you provide the address of this smart contract, returns 0, which means 0 address, and this smart contract do not have it. So basically, it's the first point which we've done, how to open credit account. So now it's possible for us to really make next steps. And next steps, what I'm going to do is how to really add money to credit account. So basically, let's consider the next point as your user who want to provide money for this strategy. So user will provide some amount, let's call this amount, some amount to our vault. And as a result, we should mint some tokens, GVT tokens, to address provide as receiver. I think it's a pretty clear task here. To do so, it's also pretty simple to do. As we've done before, at first point, we should just transfer money from people who call this function to this smart contract and amount. So now we take amount which were asked from this parameter, and now this funds on our smart contract. The next point, what we are going to do, because now we have money, is to really provide them into smart contract. To do so, we have a function which called add collateral, sorry. No, why it doesn't work? So if we go to credit facade as well and check all add collateral, you can see parameters. It asked us to provide on behalf of, so this is the smart credit account owner, which would get collateral. So for example, if you are going to build something like DeFi saver or something like that, you can provide collateral for some external smart contract. It's up to you. It's why it's done by design. Token is addressed because it does not really require you can provide any token from a allowed token list, what we've mentioned before, and of course amount as well. So when we go to our vault smart contract, you can see here at collateral function, what I really want to do that our smart contract would be a credit account holder. I want to provide token, which is asset. So basically asset is a underlying token and the size is amount. So it's also pretty simple. And the later things I want to implement here is just to mint tokens in terms of amount. But here a new problem comes because you run deposit maybe a little bit later, and some people who invested money before you already get some interest rate or maybe take some losses. It's also possible if you manage some risky strategies. But we are talking, of course, about LP strategies, and LP strategies itself are pretty safe. So no, here one more error, sorry. We should talk about receiver, because receiver will get. So to do so, let's compute how much shares we should provide. And shares, as you know, it's your amount of money. And then it's pretty interesting to understand how much money we have at the moment. Yeah. To do so, we know that we have a total supply. And at the same point, do you remember we talked during a risk and liquidation slide that we have a parameter which is called total value. And total value, just to recap here, is the sum of PI to CI. So we compute how much money we have on credit account. So our logic here is to really understand the share value, is to take total value, divide it to 4 because we have like to 5, sorry, because we have X5 leverage. So now when we compute this share, it's how much money. And of course, we should divide one more time to total supply function to get price of each share. Hope it's pretty clear. So let's share price equals. And then, as I also mentioned, we have a pretty cool smart contract, which is called credit facade. And it holds a method which calls calc total value. And let's go and check how it works there. So here you can see this method is designed to be used for with a lot of flexibility. So itself, it does not get borrower or credit account holder. Instead of that, it get a real address of smart contract, and it returns two parameters. The first one is a total value, and the second one is threshold weighted value. So if we go back to our smart contract, we need to make one more interaction. We do not need this threshold weighted value, and we should provide address of credit account. Yep. So now it's okay, but we do not know what's the address of credit account because we know only address of this smart contract, which is owner of this credit account. To do so, we have a really good function which is called it could be done a little bit more optimized, and get credit account or revert. And here we should provide the address. So if we go back here and check it, so you can see we provide the address of borrower, and it returns the address of credit account, which, just to remind, is smart contract wallet here. If borrower has no open credit account for some particular credit manager, it just reverts. So here you can see step by step. On the first point, we compute this credit account address. Then we called function, which is called calc total value, and provide credit account as a parameter. So it's do all math for us and return total value and threshold total value. Of course, there is no need to use threshold weighted value for us. And at this point, we should just make the last computation, divide 5, divide total supply, if I remember correctly. Let me check. I forgot, should I make underscore or not, but I think it's not significant here. So Is it clear why share price could be calculated this way? Sirs? Hope so. So basically, the next point which we can see, and now we have a really clear picture how it works and how to make deposit function. And of course, you make and done this withdraw on your own. And the last part, what I know that I have only 5 minutes, is how to manage these things. So basically to do so, how to provide this money, which we just send using add collateral method. The last point is how to provide them to wire. So let's imagine we have to earn and we need to call it. So to do so, we need to really find the smart contract, which is called adapter. And in Gearbox, if you want to interact with third-party protocol like Earn, Uniswap, wherever you want, you should really send the same transaction like to original smart contract. For Earn, you want to call method which is called deposit. And as I mentioned, this deposit should be called not on original smart contract, but on adapter. And if we do so, everything would be okay. All funds of our credit account would be used. To do so, we needed first to find address of earn adapter. To make this happens, we should go also to credit facade. And it has a special method which is called contract to adapter. So pretty easy. You provide address of smart contract you want to interact, and it returns the address of adapter. And then when you call the same function like original earn, it would be done there. So let's go and check the last item of this puzzle. So I go to credit facade. Yeah, contract to adapter, it get address and return address. So here I take the constant which is called earned I pool here. So now I know the address of earn adapter. So the latest things I want to implement here. Here I also call method add collateral. So now all funds which were taken from this user are on our credit account. And the last part to really construct this function, which is called deposit, is to call deposit function. To do so, I can simply get original earn interface, which is pretty cool. So it's a really amazing feature of Gearbox. You shouldn't learn new API or something like that. Then I should call a function deposit. And this what you should done to provide money, because adapter itself create all needed allowance for credit account. You shouldn't focus on that. So here you can see you simply call deposit. The same way you will run deposit on your own if you want to take money. But here, as you can see, we provide collateral here and add deposit. And another part, it was like a home task if you want to accomplish it, to make a little bit better and to keep leverage. Of course, we can increase depth. This function is used to still get X for our money, because as you can see, when we called add collateral, it means that from our user, we transfer some DAI amount to credit account. But transferring this amount do not provide your immediately leverage. So we withdraw money from user, send them to this credit account. And the last part, when you call the function increase debt, I do not really believe me that increase debt. Yep. Just to keep it the things and time for Q&A session. When we really call this function increase debt with some parameters, it would really take from the pool another margin loan to keep these funds like X5, and then earn function deposit will deposit 5 times more money than you provide here. Basically, it's a short explanation how to build Vault. It's not ready-made, and of course, a lot of stuff should be done. But basically, I hope during this example, I go through basic concept. And if you would decide to build upon Gearbox, feel free to ask on Discord or go to dev documentation to find answers. And we are here to help you. So thanks for much. Oh, pretty cool. The first question, how to get third-party protocol whitelist on Gearbox? Cool question. Thanks for it. To do so, you should build a smart contract, which is called adapter. If you go to dev Gearbox FI, there is an example how to build adapter for Uniswap P3. It's a pretty simple. Then, of course, your adapter should provide some technical security audit. It doesn't matter for hackathon properties. And the latest point, DAO would decide to add you. In hackathon, I hope tomorrow we will make a clear Kovan deployment for hackathon purposes. And to connect it from the Kovan network, you should ask me for some test network like forked mainnet or Kovan. You can just get a super user rights and call method which is called allow contract, and it's done. More questions?
Sweet. Yep. I think we're good. But yeah, if you do have more questions, be sure to hit up the Gearbox Discord channel. And yeah, thank you so much, Mikael, for joining us and for that super informative workshop. And yeah, again, Discord for all of your questions. They'll be there. Just checking out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we are here to help you to build. If something unclear, please do not hesitate. We are still building, and Gearbox itself has ambitions to become like a leverage layer for whole DeFi space. So more integrations, vaults upon Gearbox, and a lot of amazing ideas we can discuss with our team. So if you need any support in terms of product, technical help, and so on, feel free. We are here to help you to build.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a good day.